Tyron Woodley played this thing masterfully, waited 18 months for a UFC title shot, and then delivered a great championship performance. 6 or 7 now new UFC first-time champions in 2016.
It really was. It was an amazing performance. And again, there's something about really looking at the intention and the authenticity of the fighter heading into the fight. And you just kind of had this feeling. And DC, Daniel Cormier, that son of a bitch. I told him, prior to UFC tonight, I told him, I'm picking Tyron. He said, I'm going to go with Robbie. And we interviewed Tyron Woodley, and Daniel secretly messages our producer, Donovan Tarr, and tells him, you know what? I'm switching my pick. I'm going with Tyron. Wow. And he just had that feeling as well. He goes, he just seemed super confident, very relaxed, very focused. And, for Robbie Lawler, as dangerous as he is, I think he beats a lot of guys with his intimidation and his general aggressiveness during the fight. You just get intimidated by the guy, and you allow him to win that fight, and he's gonna outwill anybody out in the octagon. You can't make it a contest about will out there. And I think Tyron's right hand is so damn fast. It's so lightning fast that it's hard to prepare for something like that. And Robbie Lawler, as good as he is, he still needs to improve defensively. We've seen him get hit in fights. We've seen him get hurt in fights. Matt Brown comes to mind. Rory McDonald, of course, comes to mind. He does get hit. And when you have the kind of speed and power that Tyron Woodley has, you cannot afford to get hit flush. You got to be moving that head. You got to be super evasive. And Robbie was trying to get into the flow of the fight, and he's backed himself up against that cage, and he had nowhere to run. Tyron Woodley can close that distance in a second, and a half a second, and that's exactly what he did. That damn right hand is just brutal.
And you mentioned there off the top some of the intangibles. Some people think maybe people like me and others overcredit sort of that confidence and that championship aura and everything about Tyron. I think last week with us, with you guys, he just has this confidence about him. He said all the right things and, took a lot of risks waiting for this title shot and sort of, got this avalanche of haters because of it. So really happy to see him sort of punctuate this whole situation with a win. And I guess my big takeaway, I'm not sure if you agree, but not only is he the best welterweight in the world right now, but on any given Saturday night, he can beat the other guys in the top 5, whether it's Condit or Damian Maia or Robbie Lawler as he did, or Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who is the guy who has all the momentum with the fans right now.
Absolutely. He really has 3 very potent weapons. And when you look at the MMA game, the guys who become champions, they have 2 or 3 very dangerous things that they do. I would say maybe Michael Bisping aside, but man, it's no offense to Michael Bisping. I think he's so solid all the way around. But I think with the rest of the champions, they just have these things that if they land them, if they get them, you're in deep trouble. And that's what Tyron has. Tyron has that right hand. I think he's got that right kick, whether he's attacking your leg or going upstairs with it. And he has his wrestling. And we haven't seen his wrestling too much in his last few fights. He hasn't even used that.
Yeah.
But this is a guy, I absolutely agree with you, that can beat anyone in the welterweight division. He's the champion right now. And I like his chances against anyone out there.
It's interesting in team sports and even in other individual sports like tennis and golf, when you have a first-time major champion in golf or tennis, almost universally champions outside of combat seem to be celebrated, regardless of how ugly the path might have been to victory. And it is crazy, and we don't complain too much about this negativity here on this podcast, but it is amazing some of the narrative and the discourse after a guy like Tyron Woodley, family man who puts in all this time in the gym to try to realize a UFC championship, wins it, and then you just see what's out there and just some of the trash that is, and I don't mean people when I say trash, just people denigrating the accomplishment and saying, Wonder Boy this and Wonder Boy that. And believe you me, that's the fight I want to see next. And we'll talk to Ray Longo more about that. But Tyron Woodley's the champion right now. And I don't know why people want to take that away from him. Maybe they didn't do that to Eddie Alvarez. I'd like to see this guy get celebrated a little bit more.
And how about Tyron wanting to fight at UFC 202 against Nick Diaz? If that's not a fighter, shut up. Get the hell out of here. I think that Tyron, the fact that he hasn't fought for a long time, I think has hurt him with the fans. Obviously, I think consistency is key. I think that's why Cowboy Cerrone is such a big deal and why people love him, because he's constantly fighting. He's constantly out in the public eye.
Yeah.
People know who he is. People remember that guy. And for Tyron, being out as long as he was, I think that hurt him a little bit. But obviously it paid off. This guy knows what he's doing, and he wants these big fights. He wants Nick Diaz, George St. Pierre. And he says he'll fight Wonder Boy in due time, but he wants those big fights, and I totally get it.
And he made a bunch of money certainly this weekend and will because he became champion. And it's time to buy school supplies right now. So this is a very good thing. He can afford if he wants to get like highlighters in different colors for his kids, like he can afford it all right now.
He's got a podcast producer to pay too.
There you go.
That's right.
So it's interesting because as people try to chip away a little bit at Tyron Woodley, a big reason why is because he called out Nick Diaz and I believe George St. Pierre as opposed to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. And there was a little back and forth between the guys on FS1 after the fact. But to your point, Woodley chasing the big money fight, there are a lot of considerations, obviously, when it comes to guys getting title shots, the merits of your accomplishments, sellability, and others. To me right now, I think Wonder Boy might just be too hard to deny. I would have no problem with Nick Diaz, who is now eligible, even though he is coming off a loss to get a title shot. But I do think the Wonder Boy Woodley fight has a lot of legs. And I think whether Tyron wants it or not, I think that's probably the fight that's going to happen.
I mean, listen, you're absolutely right. Does Wonder Boy deserve it? There's no doubt about it. But as champion, if you're out there and you're saying, listen, now I'm going to make pay-per-view money, there's two names now that could be eligible. Nick Diaz, of course, is eligible. And George St. Pierre is out there. Those are the fights that I want. I mean, those are absolutely the fights that I want. And I know Nick Diaz hasn't won since 2011, but he's still a huge name, and he's still an excellent fighter. And, as a fighter, you want to go for the big money fights. It's the same thing Conor's doing. There's a reason Conor's going after Nate Diaz, and he's not fighting either Aldo or Frankie, at 145 pounds back when he had that decision. He wants the big money fight. Nate Diaz is a big name. So this is a business decision on Tyron Woodley's part. I don't know if he's going to get it. You're right. It might very well be Wonder Boy. But I'm interested to see what's going to happen. And it doesn't matter because all of those fights, GSP, Diaz, and Wonder Boy, of course, are phenomenal fights.
It is crazy, though, and I won't digress too much, but like at 55, you have Eddie Alvarez, the champion. His next fight could be against Conor McGregor if he beats Nate Diaz, and Conor, I think, at that point would certainly be a worthy number one lightweight contender. But, dude, Tony Ferguson and Khabib Nurmagomedov have both earned title shots, 3 times over at this point, So it's a good problem to have. I mean, you got 3 or 4 guys potentially who would all not generate any complaints if they got a lightweight title shot. But, a lot of interesting matchups at 55 and certainly at 70. But all hail Tyron Woodley. Happy to see another guy get a UFC title for the first time. So Nick Diaz on MMA Live, Kenny, today. I saw the clip like an hour before the show. He says he was drugged for the fight with George St. Pierre in Canada. So Diaz firing from the hip. Hey, I mean, dude, I believe everything those guys say pretty blindly. I got 209 tattooed on my left forearm. So
I love it.